The Las Vegas Raiders might have found something special in their second-round pick, Jack Beck. And guess what? People are already starting to notice. Before we dive deeper into this rising star, make sure to subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you never miss the latest Raiders news. All right, let's jump in. So, Jack Beck, a name you're going to want to remember. At the recent minicamp, he didn't just show up, he stood out. Two Raiders insiders reported that Beck was catching eyes with his energy, his work ethic, and most of all, his consistency. Now, here's the thing. When the Raiders moved back in the draft, some people thought it was a risky move. Some called Beck a third or even a fourth-round talent. But the Raiders' front office had no doubt. They knew exactly who they were after, and they got their guy. He's not flashy like Tyreek Hill, and he's not a route-running wizard like Amari Cooper. But Jack Beck is solid, dependable, a guy who's not afraid to fight for tough yards. He even said he models his game after players like Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Justin Jefferson. Names that tell you what kind of wide receiver he wants to become. No pads yet, just helmets, but even in these light practices, Beck is making an impression. This could be the start of something exciting for the Raiders' offense. Jack Beck isn't just showing up, he's starting to stand out in a big way at Raiders camp. Friday's practice told a story that fans will love. Beck was getting open again, and when the team ran full 11-on-11 drills, he caught multiple deep passes, touchdown-worthy plays that made coaches and reporters take notice. Nobody's sure yet if he'll play mostly on the outside or line up in the slot, but if he keeps this up, he could be a day-one starter. That's not just hype, that's what reporters from The Athletic are saying. Another respected voice, Vincent Bonsignore, echoed the excitement. He mentioned that Beck, at 6'1" and 214 pounds, looks even more solid in person, built in the mold of a player like Cooper Kupp. He also pointed out Beck's athleticism during drills, especially his ability to leap and grab tough passes out of the air. The Raiders used him all over the field, inside, outside, motion, and no matter where he lined up, Beck looked comfortable and confident. That versatility could be key. If you're looking at the Raiders' offensive system, especially their wide zone run concepts, it makes perfect sense to keep a strong blocker like Beck in the slot. He can block downfield, clear safeties, and still run tough routes across the middle. But really, wherever they put him, the goal is simple. Get your best three receivers on the field and go to work. And based on everything we're hearing, Jack Beck is making a very strong case to be one of those three. Right now, Jack Beck is giving Raiders fans something we all crave: hope. It's always a good sign when a young player is making headlines for the right reasons. No news? That's usually bad news. But when a rookie is already drawing attention, you know something special might be brewing. Now here's where things get interesting. How will the Raiders manage both Jack Beck and Jakobi Meyers in the same offense? Meyers has been a reliable target. He's physical, blocks well, and knows how to find space. But Beck is starting to show a similar skill set, and if he keeps climbing, we may be looking at the future right in front of us. Could Beck be the next man up? Maybe. Maybe not yet. But let's be honest, it's not easy to keep that many playmakers happy on the field at the same time. With Ashton Jeanty and Brock Bowers likely to be featured every snap, that leaves only a few receiver spots left to fill. The Raiders will have to decide who's the right mix of speed, strength, and reliability. Beck's versatility makes him a smart piece to plug into different roles. He can block. He can run tough routes. He's already showing the ability to adjust quickly. A big deal for someone new to the league. There's also a looming question. Who becomes that consistent third wide receiver? Will it be Trey Tucker, Tyquan Thornton, or someone else entirely? Right now, no one has locked it down. But here's the bottom line. The Raiders' offense is starting to take shape, and it looks faster, sharper, and more dangerous than what we saw last year. There's a different energy to this group, and Jack Beck might be a big reason why. Let's be honest. Last season's Raiders' offense just didn't have the juice. The spark was missing. The energy? Flat. Outside of a few solid performances, things felt slow, limited, and, frankly, predictable. We didn't have a running back who could change a game with one snap. The offensive line struggled. Quarterback play was shaky. And once Davante Adams faded out of the picture, there wasn't a true difference maker on the outside, aside from Jacoby Myers, who was dependable, but not a game breaker. But now things feel different. Completely different. Enter Ashton Jeanty, a player the Raiders believe can be one of the most explosive weapons in the entire league. This guy has the speed, the burst, and the vision to take it to the house on any play. It's been a long time since Raider Nation had that kind of threat in the backfield, and now we do. But it doesn't stop there. Brock Bowers is coming into year 2, and that's a major deal. As a rookie, he already flashed elite talent. Now, with a full season under his belt, expect him to take a leap. The speed of the game won't rattle him anymore. He knows the system. He knows the expectations, and he's ready to rise. Then there's Trey Tucker, a player who's quietly becoming one to watch. His development could be a real X factor this year. Whether this is year 3 or year 4, he's reaching that point where young receivers often break out, and the signs are pointing in the right direction. The Raiders don't just have talent this year, they have weapons. And the energy around this offense? It's electric. Raider Nation, buckle up. This could be the year we finally see an attack that's not just functional, but fearsome. Let's talk about what's quietly becoming one of the more intriguing stories in the Raiders' offseason: the return of linebacker Jaylon Smith. After a weekend tryout, Las Vegas has decided to bring the veteran back into the fold. Smith, who had a stint with the Raiders in 2023, is a former Pro Bowler with big game experience, and while his past few seasons haven't exactly lived up to the hype from earlier in his career, this move feels like a smart, low-risk gamble with upside. Jaylon Smith was once one of the most talked-about young defenders in the league. Injuries took their toll, no doubt, but if he's regained even a portion of that burst and instinct, he could carve out a real role in this defense. What makes this even more interesting is how the Raiders approached rookie minicamp this year. They invited veterans, like Smith, into camp alongside the rookies. That's not something this team typically does, but it gave the coaching staff a rare look. How do the rookies stack up against experienced pros? And, just as importantly, which veterans still have something left in the tank? For Jaylon Smith, apparently, the answer was clear. He showed enough to earn a contract. The question now is, what kind of impact can he actually make? Let's be realistic. Last time around, he didn't look like the same player who used to fly around the field. He was a step slower, less explosive. But this is a new season, a new coaching staff, and a new opportunity. And for a Raiders defense that's clearly being reshaped under new leadership, this could be a meaningful depth move. One thing's for sure, the linebacker room in Vegas is getting more competitive. The Raiders aren't just relying on rookies to carry the load. They're building a roster with a mix of experience, upside, and hunger. Jaylon Smith now has a chance to prove that his story in the NFL isn't over, and that his second chapter in silver and black might just be his most meaningful yet. Let's talk about the recent roster shakeup in Las Vegas, because it says a lot about how serious the Raiders are about tightening this roster heading into the new season. First, the headline: Jaylon Smith isn't the only linebacker making noise. Cody Lindenberg, a rookie with an aggressive motor, is drawing attention inside the building. The coaching staff clearly sees something in him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here competing for meaningful snaps this early. The Raiders are evaluating not just raw talent, but who can truly fit into their system. A system built around speed, awareness, and physicality. And speaking of systems, it's important to remember that linebacker in today's NFL is all about fit. You don't need a superstar name. You need someone who understands leverage, zone coverage, and how to read and react in real time. If Smith or Lindenberg can do that consistently, they could quietly become key players in this new-look Raiders defense. But with additions come subtractions, and this week, Las Vegas made some tough cuts. 3 names stand out: Amari Burney, Matthew Butler, and Tyreek McAllister. Let's start with Bernie. A former fifth-round pick, this was supposed to be his moment to break out. Instead, he never truly found his footing. Bernie struggled with instincts, speed, and overall consistency. And in today's NFL, especially under a demanding Raiders defensive unit, that's not going to cut it. The front office made the call, and it's hard to argue with it. Then there's Matthew Butler, a player who showed flashes, no doubt. He had moments where it looked like something could develop. Same with McAllister, who brought a bit of juice to the depth chart. But in the end, flashes aren't enough. The Raiders are looking for finishers, players who can turn opportunity into production. There were also a few lower-profile releases like Dominique Boyd and Brandon Smith, guys who were mainly camp bodies or practice squad players. No surprises there. This entire wave of moves signals something bigger. The Raiders are not interested in patience for the sake of potential. They're building a roster based on performance, scheme fit, and urgency. Every practice, every rep matters, and if a player isn't standing out, they're getting left behind. It's clear the Raiders are moving with intent, and every move, every cut, and every signing is aimed at one thing: fielding a defense that can finally match the firepower of their offense. Let's talk about tough decisions, because the Raiders just made a few that say a lot about where this team is heading. First up, Matthew Butler, a player who at one point looked like he might become something in silver and black. Drafted after Neil Farrell and Byron Young, Butler outlasted them both in Las Vegas. He had a longer runway, a little more time to prove he belonged. And while the flashes were there, especially at Tennessee in his final college season, the consistency never came. The truth? In the NFL, potential has a short shelf life. The Raiders have new faces on the defensive line. 2 rookies now step in, each bringing their own upside. And when a player like Butler doesn't quite take that next leap, you have to clear space for what's next. It's not cold, it's calculated. The defensive tackle room is evolving, and that's a good thing. Then there's Tyreek McAllister. Now this one stings a little more. He was electric in brief stretches last season, explosive touches, real game speed, and the kind of raw burst that makes you pay attention. Injuries may have slowed his momentum, but you could see the potential. Still, it's about roster construction. With guys like Trey Tucker and Dante Thornton in the mix, McAllister became the odd man out. Not because he wasn't good, but because the Raiders believe their future is faster, younger, and more versatile. Christian Wilkerson also got released, and while he's a serviceable wideout, maybe a WR4 or WR5 on most teams, the Raiders are chasing upside. They're not building for depth charts. They're building for difference makers. And here's what all of this points to. This is Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco's team now, not a holdover project, not a continuation of the past regime's vision. Every move is part of a full reset, aimed at reshaping this roster in their image. Las Vegas isn't clinging to maybes. They're moving forward with confidence. That's how winning teams are built. The Raiders are trimming the roster, but every cut, every addition, every name tells a story. Let's start with the philosophy. This new front office isn't interested in just average. They're aiming higher. Gone are the days of filling the depth chart with safe bets. This team is hunting for raw talent with real upside. Players who might not be polished today but could be game changers tomorrow. That's the direction, and that's why we're seeing so many former draft picks and fringe contributors being moved out. Among the new faces stepping in is Jonathan Sutherland, a safety with grit and something to prove. While he hasn't been a household name in the league, he's already spent time with the Seahawks, where a demanding defensive mind like Pete Carroll saw enough in him to give him a shot. Now, he brings that edge to Las Vegas, and let's be honest, the safety position is still very much up for grabs. The Raiders don't currently have a clear sideline-to-sideline free safety on the roster. Isaiah Polamau and Jeremy Chin have strengths, but neither is built for deep field coverage. Could Sutherland carve out a role in that void? We'll find out. The opportunity is there. These quiet signings may not grab headlines, but this is how rosters are built. Depth, competition, upside. You can sense that GM Tom Telesco and HC Antonio Pierce are laying bricks with purpose. Now, speaking of turning the page, let's reflect for a moment on someone who once was the face of the franchise, Derek Carr. Carr's retirement closes a long, emotional chapter in Raiders history. Drafted in 2014, his early years were rocky, but by 2016, he had Raider Nation believing. That season, electric, he led with heart, toughness, and fire. He gave everything to this team, and while his time with the Raiders ended in 2022, his impact never disappeared. Whether you loved him or wanted change, Carr wore that uniform with pride and gave this fan base memorable moments when we needed them most. Now he steps away from the game after 11 NFL seasons, not because he wanted to, but because of injuries that forced the issue. Still, what he gave to the Raiders can't be erased by critics or social media takes. He wasn't perfect, but he was ours, and for nearly a decade, he was the heartbeat of this team. Derek Carr, his name will forever be etched in Raiders history. No matter how you spin it, he's one of the best to ever wear the silver and black. You can debate whether he's the greatest quarterback in Raiders history. There's no shortage of legends to consider. Some will swear by Ken Stabler, others by Rich Gannon, or even Jim Plunkett. But when you ask the question, where does Derek Carr fit? The answer is simple. Right up there with the all-time greats. His journey with the Raiders was full of highs, and no one can deny the impact he had. The 2016 season alone showed us what he was capable of. The way he led the team that year, the fire, the determination, Carr was poised for greatness. Imagine that 2016 version of Derek Carr with a solid team in the playoffs. The thought alone sends chills down the spine of any true Raider fan. Unfortunately, the team's ability to build around him didn't always match his talent. Over the years, the Raiders made multiple attempts to get things right, but the pieces never quite fell into place. Injuries, changes in the front office, and coaching shifts made it difficult for Carr to reach his full potential with the Raiders. Still, his commitment and resilience made him a staple in the franchise. Now, as he steps away from the game, we turn our attention to his future. Will he coach? Perhaps follow in his brother David's footsteps and step into the media world? Only time will tell. But one thing is for sure. His legacy is secure. Before he officially rides off into the sunset, the Raiders must do right by him. The team needs to sign Carr for one final day, allowing him to retire as a Raider. After all, it's where he built his legacy. And one thing that stands out above all, Derek Carr left the Raiders with class. Even when things didn't end perfectly, he chose to take the high road, never taking shots at the team or its management. He could have aired grievances about his time with the team, but instead he remained respectful, showing nothing but gratitude for the opportunity to wear the Raider jersey. That speaks volumes about the character of the man. It's always easier to criticize from the outside, but Derek Carr's journey with the Raiders was one of grit, passion, and unwavering loyalty. He gave us moments we'll never forget. So, here's to Derek Carr. 11 seasons in the NFL, a phenomenal quarterback, and a true Raider at heart. What do you think about Derek Carr's retirement? How do you feel about his time with the Raiders and his legacy? Drop your thoughts below.